All right, good morning, my friends. It's Tuesday, and it's going to be a good day. We got a hurricane coming, or the effects of it, rather, coming up our way, I think, later today. If you're in the Birmingham area, we have to deal with some of that, but it keeps moving a little bit. But we've been praying for the coastline and all of our friends down there, asking God to be gracious. But it's going to be a good day today, isn't it? And looking forward to everything that's going on. Appreciate all the encouragement a lot of you gave us about everything, really. What's going on with our church and just kind of moving into a different season. We'll see what the Lord does. I'm encouraged. We're going to do a little house church for a bit, and it's going to be exciting. I actually think it's going to be build a better church. So we're going to see what happens as the Lord works in those things. And so that's where we are. We are today, though, in the book of James, chapter 4, just now beginning to shift into a new chapter. And man, it's filled with some really great stuff, lots of practical theology and things going on. So let's read the text, and then we'll make comment on it and seek to kind of break it down. He says, "What causes quarrels and causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire and do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask, and you ask and you don't receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your own passions. You adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God." Wow. One of the things I love about James, not much guile in him. He's just straightforward. He's going to call us adulteresses, and he's going to tell us our quarrel problem and what it is and why it's there. So let's just kind of break this down. I think it's real fitting, really, in light of what's going on in the world around us. Now, to put this in context, we just finished looking at worldly wisdom and heavenly wisdom, right? Wisdom that's from the earth, which creates disorder, and it's demonic, and it's filled with selfish ambition and arrogance, as opposed to the wisdom that comes from God, which is pure and peaceable, and it just creates this incredible aspect of life when we follow the truth that we find in the scriptures. So now what he's doing is saying, he's following that same line, just so we're clear on what's happening. He's talking about wisdom. When you choose worldly wisdom, he's going to say, now this is going to be some of the results of it. This is what happens when we choose to follow the world's ways. And so he speaks of conflict. That's what's going to happen. When we follow worldly wisdom, conflict abounds. And who doesn't know that right now and what's going on, right? What's the source of these conflicts? What's the source of the class conflict? Now, James mentioned that when he says, a rich man comes in your assembly and then a poor man. And you tell the rich man, hey, sit here. You tell the poor man, you can kind of find a spot somewhere over there. But we have that even in our society today, right? There's class warfares, there's race wars that are going on, and that was going on in the scriptural days as well. There's conflict in the church. It's always conflict in the church. It's been that since the beginning. It's the reason why James is writing the letters, the reason why Paul wrote most of his letters, because of conflict. There's conflict between people, just the irritation that we bring to each other. There's regional conflict, right? If you're in the South, you look at the West or the North, and you think differently of them. If you're from those areas, there's just that regional conflict. There's conflict among countries, right? China, Russia, us, all of that's going on. Those are the things that happen. And he says, so where do these conflicts come from? Not only in those areas, though. Right? How many of you are married, have been without conflict, right? I mean, it seems like there's going to be that conflict that comes up, whether it's a explosive deal, or it's just these subtle nagging things that just kind of keep hanging in there. Families the same way, trouble with our kids and all the conflict that brings, and what happens in that area. And it does the same thing at work, right? There's conflict at work. So he's saying now, in light of that, here's what he says. What causes quarrels and causes fights among you? What is this? What is this source? Now he's writing to a church who's got this conflict because you got people who are following God in his wisdom, and you've got some people who've creeped in and they're promoting a worldly agenda. And so he's in the context of that. And here's what he says. What is the, let's just talk about it for a minute. What causes conflict in your life? Think about the last conflict you have, or maybe the conflict that you're in. What causes that? Now, our tendency is to go, well, it's them, right? I mean, that's normal. That's our go-to. I got problems in my marriage. Well, it's her fault, or it's his fault. I got problems with my kids. Well, it's their fault. Or the kids are going, well, it's the parents' fault, right? It's the boss's fault. It's the employer's fault. It's the employee's fault. So that's how we tend to do. James cuts through the chase and goes, you know what the real cause of conflict is? Your passions internally. He says, passions at war within. Now, I make a statement an awful lot at our church and in other areas that we're all about this far from cracking up. Really, truly, we are. Everybody is about that far from cracking up. Outside of the grace of God, we're one fight away from a meltdown. We all have those 2 a.m. kind of things where we wake up and we think about what a failure we are, or all of those, what woulda, shoulda, couldas. We have the regrets that we deal with, all of those things. All that plays into this conflict if we don't have good, solid wisdom from God. That's why suicide is rampant, because of this, what he says, your internal conflict, your passions at war within you. Where's the conflict that's happening around the world? It happens within us. It starts there. The passions that I have within me, the desires, the lust. Those are the 3 words that kind of are translated from that one original language: lust, desires, passions. It's from that all of conflict comes. We have conflict with our kids because we can't control them, and there's this passion, desire. I want to control my kids for maybe even noble reasons. I want to protect them, but they won't do the right thing. So I get angry and I start lashing out at them and I say things, or they do something wrong and I get embarrassed. That's that conflict within me. They're misbehaving in the store, and so I want to snatch them up. Or we're at dinner with friends and there's that conflict that goes on. Where's it coming from? Is it coming from them, or is it coming from your desires within? Same thing with our marriage. I want my wife to do something and she won't do it. And maybe I haven't even explained it to her. I just assume she should know that that's what I want her to do, and she won't do it. And I get frustrated. Same thing with her to me. These are the things that take place. He says, you have these passions that are at war within you. See, when we follow worldly wisdom, it's filled with humility, and we realize that we regard others as more important than ourselves. There's less conflict when you live that way. It's a hard way to live outside of Christ. In fact, it's impossible. But humility says that it's about you, not me. Well, then there's not going to be a lot of conflict when that's going on, right? If I follow the golden rule, which again is wisdom from above, that I kind of turn, if the tables were turned, how would I want to be treated? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, then there's going to be grace there. There's going to be mercy there, less conflict. But when I choose the world's ways, he's saying when you choose that, I want you to understand where it's coming from. Your passions and you desire something, and there's a war going on with you. That's what he says. I want something and have convinced myself that you are in the way. That's what's going on. It's going on, conflict around the world, conflict in your marriage, wherever you find it, that's what's happening first. I want something and have convinced myself that you are the reason why I can't have it. So what do? Well, if I'm following worldly wisdom, then I resort to moving you out of my way. That's what he says. You desire and don't have, so you murder, right? What am I doing there? I'm getting you out of the way, moving you out of the picture. Now, I may not physically murder you, but I'm going to assault you with my sarcasm, or I'm going to dominate over you, so I've crushed you, so you're no longer in my path, right? This is how it goes. This is where conflict starts. Worldly wisdom brings about these evil, or the evil desires are there. Worldly wisdom gives me a path that I can choose to get what I think I want. And so this is what he says. You desire and don't have, so you murder. You covet and can't obtain, so you fight and quarrel. I'm lust. So what's going on, man? I'm murdering. I want something. She won't give it to me. My boss won't give it to me. So, man, I'm going to murder him. I'm either going to murder him with my words. I'm going to move him out of my way. I'm going to get somebody fired. I'm going to divorce my wife. I'm going to do whatever it is. I'm going to get where I want to go. That's what happens when worldly wisdom is a part of it. Now, it may not just be murder, because this is what he says here. You desire and don't have. So that desire makes me want to move somebody out of my way. Isn't that what David did when he killed Uriah, the Hittite, because he found himself embarrassed in a sense because he has a woman pregnant and he doesn't want it found out. So there's conflict. His evil desire created the situation. So what does he do? I got to get Uriah out of the way. Everything's good. Then he says, you covet and cannot obtain. So now I want something. Maybe you're not in my way. Maybe it's just that I just can't get what I want. So I'm just going to steal it. I'm going to take it. And this is what he says happens. So then he says, then because you have this Christian system about it, what does he say you do? Well, you pray. He says, you covet and complain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you don't ask. Your failure, he says, is you're trying to find things from the world instead of petitioning the creator of the universe, God Most High, right? I have two choices. I can grab what I want, or I can ask the Father to give me what he wants. The problem is when my wisdom is worldly, I don't want what he wants, or I want what he wants and I want to shortcut it, right? And that's sometimes what we want. And so he's saying you don't have because you don't ask. He is the good Father who gives good gifts freely to you and me who ask. He gives us wisdom when we ask, and he doesn't discriminate. He's the Father of light in whom there's no shifting shadow. He gives good gifts. He meets our needs. He is Jehovah Nissi, God my provider. He is all of those things. Yet in the moment when we allow our evil desires to dominate our thoughts, he's the last thing that we think about. I'm just gonna get it myself. And then there's that fleeting thought, well, I'll pray about it. And he says, you don't have because you didn't even bother to ask me. And when you do decide, God, take care of my wife. God, kill my wife. God, God, take care of my kids. God, get my boss fired. God, we begin to pray. What does he say happens? You ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. We're not talking about needs. We're talking about greed. We're talking about what happens when we move out of our lane in our journey that God has for us. And I begin to look at your journey and think I like yours better. And I want that. And so I get frustrated at God that he's not giving me your journey. And so I'm either going to kill you to see if I can't get it, or I'm going to try and steal it from you. And then when I ask God for it, I'm asking for wrong motives. God has given me my journey. I need to be content in that journey and live that life. This is our struggle. This is why these quarrels and conflicts come. And I love the fact that he's just laying it out there and letting us know how it is. You ask and you don't receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your own passions. Some of our prayers are just selfish. Now, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, God, I need this. Here's what I need. But when it's something I want and I want God to do something and manipulate him to get me what I think I want when it's not what's best for me, that's when I get in trouble. And so conflict results from choosing this worldly wisdom. For whatever the Lord gives, with that we shall be content. That's what we looked at in Philippians. Then he says in verse 4, you adulterous people. Well, wow, okay. Because he says, I'm committing adultery. I have chosen God to be my God. And then I've decided, nope, I want stuff from the world. I want the idolatry that the world offers. What has that made me? An adulteress. It's made me, I've committed to the Lord, except now I want to cheat on him because I want the stuff from the world. He says, you adulterous people, don't you know that friendship with the world puts you on the opposite side of God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. That's where he's going. He's talking about conflict to let you know that it all stems because you've chosen to love the world and the things of the world instead of what God wants. When we love what God wants, conflict outside of the fact that of just the conflict of good versus evil, but conflict goes away when two people love God. There may be some disagreement, but there's never quarrels and conflict. There's discussion and moving forward. That's the message today. Man, I can't wait to get into this further because he continues this line of thinking, and we'll look at it tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you soon.